Brendan, Privacore and Partners Capital recently launched the AltsGrow fund. So what gap in the alternative space are you trying to fill with this particular fund?
Look, more and more private wealth investors are looking for exposure into alternative investments. And by and large, what we saw is that there's very few products out there that are really foundational products. And so what we decided to build with our partners at Privacore Capital, who's an institutional manager, is a product that gives you broad exposure across the spectrum of private equity, some real assets, and some venture capital. And that, I think, is a foundational product that is a better foundation to build upon.
And this has a tender offer structure. So why is this better for clients and investors who are worried about liquidity?
So first of all, a tender offer structure permits you to make monthly purchases. And after a soft lock, you get quarterly redemptions. And so it's much smaller minimum investments. You get broad exposure to lots of different managers, to lots of different asset classes for a smaller amount of money. And after a one-year holding period, you get quarterly redemptions and you get your money back.
Getting your money back is a good thing. So why are we seeing so much growth, such explosive growth in these so-called evergreen funds?
Yeah. So look, alternative investments have been growing by leaps and bounds. Part of the reason for that is just the great exposure that you get into the markets. There's 140,000 different companies around the planet that have at least $100 million of revenue that are private. You compare that to the public markets where there's 19,000 companies with at least $100 million of revenue. So you get great exposure to lots of companies all around the world, and that's why more and more people are looking to invest in alternative types of investments. The evergreen type of product is an easier product to invest in. It puts your money to work right away. It is simplified tax reporting. It just works better than the drawdown, long, drawn-out thing that typically has been in the alternative world.
Okay, so you think you have the best structure out there that will help clients with liquidity. Now, as you also mentioned, there's lots of people rolling out these funds. What makes your fund, AltsGrow, better than the other ones?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, Partners Capital is a terrific partner. They're based in Boston and London. They've been running money for lots and lots of years. They serve some of the biggest institutions in the world. I think what happens here is you get diversification. Now, diversification is a premise of all risk management anyway, but you get diversification not only by sector and by holding, but also by manager, and you get it by vintage year. And so what you're doing is you're spreading your money out and you're getting exposures to some of the best GPs on the planet, and you're getting it at a reasonable rate of return, and you're getting it at a smaller amount of investment. And I think that's what's superior about this.
And how does this fit into a client portfolio?
Yeah.
So for example, we used to hear about the 60-40 split, stocks, bonds for a long time. Now people are talking about 60-20-20, with that last 20 being into alternatives and private market assets. So talk about how your fund would fit into a client portfolio.
Yeah, look, at the institutional level, alternatives have represented north of 20% of the portfolio for quite some time. It's only been in the last decade or so that it's been available broadly to private wealth investors. And it's difficult for those private wealth investors to get broad exposure to lots of different asset classes. So I think what AltsGrow does, it gives you a strong foundational type of offering upon which you can get this as a base holding, and then you can put and supplement other holdings on top of that in the alternative space. I think that right now, private wealth in general has got about 5 to 6% of their money in alts, and this is a good way to get broad exposure and then to build on top of that.
And then finally, how are you telling advisors to tell your story? So when you're speaking with an advisor, how do you say AltsGrow is the fund you want to go with as opposed to someone else's?
Look, we have high regard for the advisors. It's why we distribute through the advisors, whether it's a big bank like a UBS, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, or registered investment advisors. They're trained investment professionals. And we just think that the value of what we do is enhanced by partnering up with them. What we're able to do is develop websites. We're able to partner up with some of the top banks in the world and some of the leading RIAs and educate them and let them know what we're doing, and we keep them informed on a regular basis. And that's how you get these people involved.
All right, well, thanks for coming on and talking about it.
Thanks, nice to be here.